Korea, 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 Korean War.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Forgotten War. What is a completely pointless waste of time in the early 50s, in which America nearly nuked multiple people and created the Kim regime in Korea today, in which they now obsess over basketball and some fat man. At the end of World War II, we had a weird situation in which we had a new president. Franklin Delano Roosevelt went ahead and died at the end of the war. Yeah, he mid-war, the biggest war the world had ever seen. Franklin Delano Roosevelt did a big oopsie and died. And Harry S. Truman, who just so happened to be his vice president after the 1944 Democratic National Convention, in which he won by the skin of his teeth, and Harry Wallace nearly beat him, ended up as vice president and then president of the United States, and was rolling up to the end of the war with, no knowledge of any of the dealings that they've done internationally between Stalin and Churchill and all the allies, and also not knowing about the nukes. So this is where the contention happens, because in Potsdam, they're trying to decide, in 1945, at the fall of the Nazis, they're trying to decide who gets, certain parts of Germany, and also will the Soviets actually open up their second front, because Stalin, who everyone knows was begging for the Allies to open up a front in Europe, but the Americans wanted Stalin to open up a front against Japan. And all of a sudden, now, with the Battle of Okinawa nearly coming to an end, Truman's just looking at, well, fuck it, nuke 'em. And he does, and Stalin opens up a front immediately after the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and then on Nagasaki. Japanese surrender, but some weird place that people always forget about, the Korean Peninsula, is now split in half by the 38th parallel. Yeah, so basically, they are now under occupation. The North is occupied by the Soviet Union, and the South is occupied by the Americans. And both of them want to set up a Korean government, but both have completely opposing ideologies. They both set up basic client governments that are both according to their ideology. And then the Soviets leave, leaving Kim Il-sung, the former freedom fighter, who is a communist freedom fighter in Korea, just like Mao Zedong was the communist freedom fighter in China, with a whole bunch of Soviet equipment, because the Soviets basically just went to their troops and just like, drop your guns, take off your clothes, and get on the train. And they just left literally everything. They're just all the tanks, artillery, guns, ammunition. They're just like, get the fuck on the train, just go. So now there's just basically contention between the two Koreas, between, the Republic of Korea and then the new Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Kim Il-sung's nightmare death regime of communists and horrors. But Kim Il-sung wants to invade the South, and he thinks he can. So what he does is he goes to Moscow to meet with Stalin, and he's just like, yo, Stalin, can I get access to some help so I can go take back Korea, like unite the Korean Peninsula? And Stalin's just like, dude, get the fuck in. No, I'm not dealing with you. So Stalin basically just kind of gives him the cold shoulder, and in 1949, all of a sudden, a big old man named Mao Zedong, Daddy Zong, won the Chinese Civil War and now controls the entirety of the mainland of China, while Chiang Kai-shek is stuck on some stupid island that will be just thrust into irrelevance and no one ever knows the name of it. It's called Taiwan. So, coming off a great victory, Kim Il-sung rolls at the Mao Zedong and is just like, hey, can I get some help? And he's just like, I don't want to fight the U.S., who probably will get involved because they're protecting South Korea, but I will give you aid with some arms, small arms, and ammunition and stuff like that. And the thing that really knocked home the idea that Kim Il-sung can win the war is Dean Acheson, who I'm sure everyone knows. He's such a famous person. He was Secretary of State under Harry Truman, and he writes a speech basically outlining the American foreign policy with this, it's called the perimeter speech. And he basically says that the American sphere of influence goes from the Ryukyu Islands, the Philippines, Japan, all the way across, and totally leaves out Korea. So Kim Il-sung, the big daddy man he is, decides, all right, it's time to roll. And he just rolls across the 38th parallel. So Kim Il-sung just screams across the 38th parallel. He takes Seoul in a day, and he's rolling the Republic of Korea troops because the Americans are going through a massive dearmament because Harry Truman and most of the military high command of the United States of America believe that now that they possess nuclear weapons that they used twice on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there is no need for as large of a military as they had in World War II. So they're completely just cutting divisions left and right. And their allies in the Republic of Korea have not been given any help, so they don't have any tanks from the Americans or artillery like the Democratic People's Republic of Korea got, because the Americans aren't really caring. They're just chilling in Japan watching hentai and having a good time. So the Republic of Korea is totally not ready for this at all. And Kim Il-sung, with a whole bunch of T-34s, just storms down the Korean Peninsula. And this is absolute panic mode because Douglas MacArthur and the American occupation in Japan, which is the closest large-scale military force, other than the Marine Corps and a few in the 2nd Infantry Division, which is currently in Korea, but they are totally just not ready for any of this. And Douglas MacArthur has his troops that are all on half strength and have not been doing any like PT. They've been just kind of like enjoying a long-term vacation in Japan. Basically, all the American troops in Korea and Japan are not ready at all. And Kim Il-sung is basically just flying down the Korean Peninsula, and it is absolute panic mode for the Department of Defense and the Secretary of State, Dean Acheson, and Harry Truman, in which they are trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. So, now, basically, Truman, Dean Acheson, and the entire United States military is caught with their hands around their ankles and have no clue what the hell to do. So, they've established a new, wonderful, amazing thing at the end of World War II called the United Nations, which is basically, you know, what they tried to do after World War I, but actually works, kind of. So, they roll up to the Security Council, and they're just like, this is fantastic, because what the Soviets are doing is they're pissed off because the People's Republic of China is not allowed to take Taiwan's spot in the United Nations Security Council as a permanent member. So Chiang Kai-shek's government of the Republic of China now still has the seat, but they only are in a small island, and the People's Republic of China, which controls the entirety of mainland China, is just not allowed. And the Soviet Union's pissed off because they're still, you know, friends at this point. There's no Sino-Soviet split. So they've completely boycotted. They're not even showing up to meetings. All their ambassadors have left. So the United States is just like, hell yeah. Is everyone okay with UN intervention into the Korean Peninsula on behalf of the Republic of Korea? And because the Soviets aren't there, it passes in the Security Council Resolution number 82, and the United States is ready to go under the guise of UN troops, because mainly it's the United States and Republic of Korea doing the fighting, with the United States, who have the largest share, with the United Kingdom coming up in a third, but a very low third. But what's going on is they're still under massive, massive attack. So they are being pushed down the Korean Peninsula like all hell, nearly coming to Busan, which is a small port at the bottom of Korea. So near Osan in late June, early July, the United States decides that they need to do a delaying action so they can mobilize the Marine Corps and the troops stationed in Japan to get involvement and stop the massive just flow of North Korean troops that are flying down the Korean Peninsula. So they decide to organize a bunch of delaying actions, and this creates one of the most famous parts of the delaying action called Task Force Smith. Task Force Smith was armed with small weapons and some minor just equipment like bazookas to stop what is basically armor columns flying down the Korean Peninsula, and it was an absolute shit show. They also had a term called bug out, which is when they would get overrun, they'd yell bug out and they all run away. So it was, most of Task Force Smith either died or got captured, but they did actually achieve what they were doing, which is delaying the flow of Korean troops. UN troops were still in a problem. They had Republic of Korea and American troops basically surrounded near Pusan. Douglas MacArthur, the leading general at the time, is appointed UN commander of troops and needs to get shit done. So they unload a large amount of Marine Corps and U.S. infantrymen into Pusan, who start slowly pushing back Korean troops, inching the line from Pusan further and further out. Where the Marine Corps does something that's a bit ridiculous, they actually raise a flag like in Iwo Jima on every hill they take back around Pusan. So, with the pushback happening in Pusan, Douglas MacArthur thinks we need to have an action to help the breakout in Pusan that would scare the shit out of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and get the momentum moving on our side. So, near Seoul, there is a place called Incheon. Incheon is a place that has bad tidal flow that allows for 6 hours of ships moving in, but then 6 hours of not, and a few islands that are ready for defensible positions that have stationed troops in them. And Douglas MacArthur wants the United States Navy to land troops on Incheon, land the Marine Corps. The United States Navy says no. But Douglas MacArthur, like the big dick man he is, rolls up and he's just like, you guys did Saipan, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, and you did Normandy. You're saying you can't land troops on Incheon? And they're just like, yeah, all right, fine, we'll do it. So they establish 3 beaches, Green Beach, Red Beach, and Blue Beach, and they land the Marine Corps, who bust out of Incheon and are burning time into Seoul. They're flying. And the North Koreans, they have ran out of gas. Literally. No, they actually ran out of gas. They do not have any more gas for their tanks to continue pushing. So they start retreating, and the United States now has basically the entire 38th parallel locked down, in which Harry S. Truman tells Douglas MacArthur, stop at the 30th parallel. You have to stop at the 30th parallel. You have to stop at the 38th parallel. Don't advance into North Korea. Stop at the 30th parallel. Douglas MacArthur ignores that, and he goes. And he flies in there. So by the end of 1951, he has pushed all the way up to basically the Chinese border. And that does not work. Mao Zedong is sitting there, and he's seeing a aggressive, anti-his government, anti-communist army on his border near the Yalu River.